Hey everyone, it's Maydad here from YNV Health and Wellness, and tonight I'm joined with Nadia Barkos from Chill Technology. Hey Nadia,
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and how are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good for a Tuesday.
Awesome. I see you've been really busy with all the work that you do with the NLP and life coaching that you do, and you've also been really busy promoting your comedy nights, which have been very successful. And I believe you've got a book that you've just finished writing.
Yes, I've just finished writing my book. It's all about business, lifestyle, and all the trials and tribulations of being a crazy person. Um,
Wow. I'd love to hear more about it. Maybe we can run a Zoom specifically about the book and we can promote it and share with the audience all about the book. But tonight we've got a special guest, and her name is Lissy Abrahams. She's a psychotherapist and a relationship expert. She's an author and has written her own book called Relationships Reset that has been described as a work of brilliance. She's been on national television many times. She's written articles for newspaper, and the list goes on. Lizzie, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Zoom tonight.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Cool. How you doing?
I'm awesome. I mean, I'm kind of just super excited to be here. We met only about 3 weeks ago in our
Yeah.
local park, and the only reason we actually met was we were both barefoot. So I felt like there was some kindred spirit in the barefoot department, and that's why we are doing this tonight. So I think
How
it's
funny
huge.
was that? How funny was that? And you were walking, and people look at me while I'm barefoot. Aren't you cold? But I said I'm getting some grounding, and they go, "Ah, maybe I should take my shoes off." But yeah, how funny was that? And how cool that we're here tonight discussing such an important topic, and you're going to enlighten us with more information. Let's just get started, and we want a little bit to find out a little bit about Lizzie Abrahams and what made you the person that you are today, and please enlighten us on how you started out as a psychotherapist and what made you go down this path as a relationship expert.
Several things in there. What kind of makes me who I am today? Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind really is I think who I am today is just a gazillion micro moments that I've had across time. And all of the moments that we have shape us in a particular direction. And we might follow certain paths and let others drop, or other people might influence us at a certain point. But I am here because and showing up today because I've chosen many different paths, but some I haven't chosen, and then I've gone down them as well, shaped by the beautiful moments, the horrendous moments, everything in between. So I feel like I'm a shaped animal through my experiences. And in terms of my psychotherapy route, I studied psychology in Sydney and did honours at UNSW. And then I went over to London and did a master's of couple psychoanalytic psychotherapy. And so couples really became my thing. Now that I do work with a lot of individuals as well, but for me, there's something so fascinating when you have these two people who have committed to have a life together and understanding, what does this one person bring and the other partner brings. And even on top of that, it's what do they create together? Because each relationship's different. They might have some themes that are similar, but each one is just created by the two people in it and where they go and how they're shaped and their journey. So I absolutely love couples. I love what we do, how absolutely beautiful we can be. I also love that we can be very revolting too. We can do it all. We do the whole spectrum, and it's trying to help all of us beasts of some sort try and kind of be kinder and more respectful and more gentle along the way. So I did my master's, and I've done many things since I came back to Australia. I set up a clinic in Edgecliff. I did a training to be a mediator, family dispute resolution practitioner. I've written a book, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
let's come on.
Lissy, can you give us an overview of what Healthy Minds is all about? I know you've just spoken about how beautiful it is to work with couples and that. I tend to kind of refer to my relationship with my wife and anybody, even including people I've met like yourself, and that is like a little bit of fruit that we bring to the table as we get to know each other in the friendship. It doesn't mean a business, whether it is a business relationship or whatever relationship it may be, but we all bring some sort of fruit to the table, and we enhance or complement one another from it, especially if the friendship is becomes bonded and it grows along the way. But can you give us an overview of what Healthy Minds is all about?
Yeah, I had created several couples programs before, and the way that I create those couples programs is I think it's our own individual responsibility to be as healthy inside of ourselves so that we can bring that part to a relationship. And we don't know what's inside us unless we know what's inside of us, and we need a way and have mechanisms for getting inside. So I created Healthy Minds for people who were not necessarily in a relationship. It could be at work, it could be with friends, it could be with anybody, and especially within themselves, so that they could really try and understand, why do I relate the way I do? Why do I get upset by my boss at work? Why do I go off and cry in the bathroom? Why do I get prickly over this? What gets under my skin? And so for me, Healthy Minds was really a way of saying, for people who just want to look at themselves and not think about couple relationships or other relationships in particular, but just how they relate across the board, because we take ourselves everywhere. That's why I created it. So it's got lots of examples for the workplace, for family members, so mothers and children and fathers and partners. So it's for everyone, really, as opposed to just a couple relationship.
It's interesting how triggers come up in all of us. I notice triggers come up with me, and I consider myself pretty cool, but I believe at some point we've all got some sort of trauma. We've got some sort of trigger that can trigger all of us. It could be a past relationship, it could be a childhood need that wasn't met, but it really is pretty powerful stuff, isn't it?
It's major stuff. And what a lot of us don't know, which I still find blows me over every time I think about it, is that we were wired up to be in relationships pretty much by 12 to 18 months of age. So if you think about how tiny a baby is, they've got so much relationship material that kind of becomes a template for what they're going to do along the way throughout life in adult relationships. And so unless we understand what's in it, it's like a blueprint. Unless we
Yes.
understand what's in there, we're going to keep kind of putting this same program out wherever we go. So I call that our wiring. And I think we just need to know how we're wired, because I didn't shape myself. I'll tell you that much. You didn't
No.
shape you. Alex didn't shape himself. Nadia didn't. We were shaped by forces that were going on around us as we were growing up, and we were reacting like little animals that we are to these forces. And so if we don't have a sense of what that shaping is, we just call it me. We say it's all about me and
So true.
and our viewpoint. And that's really shocking, because we're all doing it. There's like 8.1 billion people on the planet all going, oh, it's me and my viewpoint. But if we don't actually know that we've just been shaped, we don't know what we really think outside of that shaping. Who are we? And that for me is really important, because I want to kind of put the spotlight down there for everyone and go, hold on a minute, you say that, you think that, you react like that because of what happened all those years ago, decades ago, and you're still running off that same blueprint. How
Yes,
about you do it differently?
it's almost like a kind of like luggage or some sort of trauma that you haven't been able to release and understand within yourself. It's interesting how you bring that point up, Lissy, about the imprint period. I'm actually going through some studies now where I'm looking at writing something up about the 3 stages of human growth. I've actually got 6 stages, from the infant period and the growing up all the way to the socializing period to the adult period. And just the Irish, I think, say if you've got a child for 5 years, you've got them for life. As you said, that the rewiring of your brain. I've got 2 kids myself. I think like the wiring of their brain. When I come home and I see them cooking and doing certain things, I'm saying to myself, "Wow, I'm not doing such a bad job," and I'm not giving myself a pat on the back in front of everybody here. But I think it's really important for parents to understand, because really, we leave high school. There's no license in becoming parents. There's no courses to become parents. But
Yeah.
our history has a lot to do, and our makeup, the way, as you said, we're wired up, has a lot to do with the way we contribute to ourselves, to other people around us, not alone our families and friends.
And It's such a major responsibility. I personally don't know if I would have had children if I had understood the level of responsibility of it. I think it's
Oh, wow.
massive. I think
Oh,
it's
it's
so
huge.
huge to be that responsible for someone's well-being. And yeah, it's such a formative period when we've done it before. Like, until you become a parent, who's got any idea how to be a parent? And a lot of your own stuff gets kind of re thrown around and rejigged. And I'll never forget having a baby, and my first was born, and feeding her in the night, and all thoughts were of my mother having done this, and my grandmother, and all these women who had sat in the middle of the night feeding babies. But along with that also came generational movement. Oh my goodness, I'm not just the daughter now, I'm the parent. And my parents' stuff that I experienced with my parents started jiggling around in me, and it got quite uncomfortable. And I had to do some work, and then some more work, and then some more work as different ages and stages went on. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a huge responsibility. It
It
really
sure is.
is.
I actually think and I'm speaking on my wife's behalf, but also mine. I think is one of the most unselfish thing and the most beautiful thing you could ever do in becoming a parent. But that's personal. Everybody's got their own views. I know people who don't want to have kids, and each to their own. But what inspired you to create your program, and who do you feel benefits from all these programs and things that? Because I know you've got some amazing things going. Could you share with our audience tonight a little bit about that and who benefits from them?
Well, it's a whole range of people. I mean, there's certainly people who can't get into a consulting room. It's a very privileged world to come and see a therapist, to be able to afford a therapist, to be able to take the time out of your day to do it. It's not for everybody. It's not that more people wouldn't want it, not everyone can access it. So the reason I created it is because with my training that I had, it was a very deep training. I had a 4-year couples training, which is quite unusual. It's a very well-known institute in London, and I'm very privileged to have been accepted there and gone there. But it was such a huge training. And when I started kind of putting the information together and working in my clinic, I just thought, no one's getting this. How are people going to know what to do and how to live their lives? If I didn't know, and I had done all the training in the world, and still in my own life, I had things to navigate. And I thought, humans don't stand a chance. Where do we get this information unless there's people giving us solid information? So I thought, that's it. And I went on a bit of a mission. It started during COVID. And that's when I contacted Pan Macmillan and got a book deal and wrote, because I knew couples were absolutely being smashed with COVID, and the way people were really, really struggling. Now, not everyone struggled in COVID. Some people loved it and they had the best time to just be together. But
Yeah.
if you had any cracks at home, they just turned into major crevices. It was horrendous for many, many couples. And
Oh,
there were a lot of divorces that happened as soon as people were out of lockdowns. So that was why I wrote the book. But then I just thought, how do I deliver this to people in a way that's, you can do it at home, it's easy, it's the stuff I know that works because I use it in my consulting room. And yeah, so for me, Healthy Minds, it's just a version of taking people through a journey of looking inside. And we can do that at home. We don't need to be with a therapist. And a lot of the time, I can't do this in my therapy room with people. I can't sort of deliver the message in this way. So I actually even say to people who come to see me, do my courses first, then come see me, because I want to save them. I can save with my Fight Less, Love More, my couple program, save people 20, 30 sessions easily. And
yes.
they don't even have to come in. A lot of people don't even come in because I set it out to be a whole program, like a therapeutic program. So a lot of therapists don't want to give you the words that they use and they have in their head. I wanted to give my head to people so that they could then go, oh, what am I doing? And so that's why I use the terms like projection. I use the words like sublimation, compartmentalization. So these are ego defense mechanisms that people use when they're struggling. Oh, they hit their point where they can't go any further. What happens next? Well, then I start regressing. I might start crying or throwing a tantrum or getting angry. So trying to understand why we do what we do when we reach our threshold that we can't tolerate things anymore. It's normal that we do this. It's absolutely one of the most normal things in the world. But if we don't know that it's normal and that there are ways through that and to expand our window of tolerance for what we can deal with in life and face reality, we're going to just keep coming up against this stuff. So for me, it's just like, if more people know how to do this, then we're much happier. That it's just that simple. If I can expand what I can cope with, then I'm happier. Then I'm not, getting angry at the kids unnecessarily, or blaming my partner for something, or becoming a victim, or needing to be superior. So there's a whole host of things that we can do.
That's amazing. It's almost like Groundhog Day. I don't know if you remember the movie,
So
but I remember taking on a client that was walking home. He was a famous real estate in the eastern suburbs, and he was coming home at night, and the kids were walking on eggshells because he was so irritable, going to open homes and doing auctions and stuff like that. And after spending about 12 weeks with me, not was he able to change his trajectory and the way he ate and the amount of coffees that he drank in the day, but he was able to come home, and the kids were, he had honey and ham sometime once a week to develop a more intimate, and like when I'm talking about intimate, not just physically, but really intimate in taking her, which I call for honey and handsome time, where they went to like Baker's Bar and they had a coffee and breakfast, one brunch once a week. He took some time off work for an hour, just sat with her, talked to her. What was Johnny doing at school? How was Sally doing at netball, etc.? When was the tutoring on? When was his soccer training? Is that? And at the end, it improved his relationship at home, and he wasn't spending so much time at work. So I think this, what you were saying, is so important for a relationship. Being a husband and a father, I see the added value of implementing all this sort of work, and that has enabled me to wire myself a little bit better than I thought I knew well. But it's no longer Groundhog Day for me, because I feel like I'm more resilient and I'm able to cope with situations a little better, Lissy.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
what is a unreliable narrator, and why does it have a negative bias, and what causes this?
Okay, so the unreliable narrator really is our ego. That's our sense of self. That's our self-identity, how we kind of think about ourselves. And if you think about from the moment you wake up in the morning to the minute you go to bed, and you'll probably even notice you do it in your sleep, I know I do, this mind can just talk so much shit. Let's be honest. Everybody's mind. If
Yeah,
you were to put a microphone in all of our minds and amplify it so I could hear yours, Alex, and Maida, and Nadia's, and you could hear mine, you'd be going, holy cow, what is going on in there? Like, we're so random, and we don't think our thoughts. They just come. They just come. There's a bit of light, something happens in that direction, something we don't plan what's going to come into our minds. We haven't got that level of sophistication unless we're actually plotting it consciously. And so the unreliable narrator will just, whatever it feels like doing, it's going to feed the beast in some way. So if we feel a little bit unhappy, we're going to find a few things that are going to really keep going in that direction. If we're feeling happy, we'll start thinking happy thoughts, but very quickly that can turn into something that just is, you know, negative, and turn around, and then we can feed that. So we don't really have a solid core that knows who it is. So we're just moving like the wind and creating stories as we go, and we can all do it. And so unless you're some Buddhist monk on a mountain who goes and takes their rice bowl around and wants some food every day, I think everybody is doing this, and they're probably doing it too. So the unreliable narrator is just a recognition that what we're talking about inside our heads is often a load of BS. It really is. And we need to be careful about how we treat people, how we talk about ourselves, because the unreliable part is also saying, "Yeah, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I should be
it's
better.
amazing.
I need to be a better friend. I haven't been a good daughter lately, or a good son. Oh my goodness, I'm not spending enough time with my kid. They're going to be damaged because I'm not good enough." So it's this constant noise of this unreliable narrator, and the negative bias is really important, because humans are wired to have a negative bias. We see the world with this more negative lens than we do a positive lens. And that would have had evolutionary gains from that, because it'd be like going in our lives as little animals that we are, and then going, oh my goodness, a beast. It's better for us if we view that as a danger than as a friend, because we've got to test it out. Hey, beast, are we going to play, Are we going to tease each other a bit, or are we going to eat each other? Are you going to eat me? And so the negative lens is a protective mechanism. But for humans, I mean, how endangered are we every day sitting in Sydney and Australia? Nadia, I know you're in Adelaide.
Adelaide.
Where, Alex, I'm not sure where you are, but we're not that endangered. And so we don't really need a negative lens. Melbourne, hey. And so we don't need it, but we're still doing it. We're like, oh, you could be an enemy. You could be an enemy. So we can train ourselves out of a negative bias. I totally trained myself out of it once I realized that I had one. It was like, you can stop this. You could be happier for people. You can be more, you can find more inside. We don't need to be like this.
Do you feel like, and this is something I say, and I'm going to relate this to sport, for example, with my gym when I train fighters. I know that in each and every one of us, like at this particular moment, there might be a voice running through your head, through Nadia's head, through Alex's head, through my head. Oh, I've got to do this tomorrow. I've got a couple of clients in the morning. And that voice, that internal conversation, your ability to be mindful and the ability to control some of these voices or some of this ongoing talk that is going inside you, it's all about you training yourself and rewiring yourself right. And in doing so, I believe that we're able to turn up so much better.
Yeah,
I had a
hugely.
little I had a little boy come and train with me about 5 weeks ago. He didn't even want to come down the stairs. He cried his eyes out and he turned his back to me. And I knew that he was suffering from childhood bullying at school and stuff like that. And his mum wanted to bring him to my gym. Finally, he left the gym. I never thought I'd ever see him again. Today was his sixth session with me. And halfway through the session, I just saw some incredible progress. So positive. He's loving boxing. He can't get enough of it. And I said to him, I want to share something with you. And I shared something with him. He's only a 12-year-old kid. And I shared something with him where I taught him how to reset his vagus nerve and override his central nervous
Mm,
system by just humming
beautiful.
or gargling water. And he looked at
Mm,
me and I said to him, do you realize how tense you were in between this session? I want you to try this. And at the end of this, I want you to tell me how you feel. And he did it with me. We did his little exercise. And he says, you know what? I really feel focused.
yeah,
And
great.
it's like anything. If we can
Mm,
help, this is what I was speaking when Nadia and I held Zoom sessions with Dr. Uh, Levi, Mark Levi, who's an expert on sleep deprivation. And he talked about early childhood programs set out and programming young kids at an early age to nasal breathe and all the other stuff. And I think society has been fed so much in BS information, as you say,
yeah,
and just doesn't have a true identity or understanding of how good they could improve their life with just,
absolutely.
you know,
These tips.
different
And the
things.
thing is, my feeling is whatever mainstream tells you, do the opposite. Whatever mainstream is trying to shove at you, run. So I love stepping out of mainstream as much as possible. I try it. I find
Doing
my
things outside the
mainstream
box.
suffocating, and it tells us who we should be and that we should be enslaved to these major mortgages and that we should eat particular food like meat and three veg and that's so cute, Nadia.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We end up just being little sheep going, bah, I'm going to sheep through life this way. And I just want to shake people and go, can we stop it? We are so much better than this. We just don't know it. We're all
Yeah.
better than this. We
Education is
all,
so important.
yeah. And so what you were saying about the vagus nerve, if we can all do that and then look at our minds and work with those two parts, how you just calm yourself, work with the mind, this brilliant mind that you have, and just stop fueling aspects in
Negative.
this in the unreliable narrator and listening to the crap. We can be amazing just inside of ourselves. And so for me, sitting here, I don't actually have a mind that's wandering. I'm really fortunate. And that's probably why I'm a therapist, because it allows me just to really drop me to the max and just be with others and
Be
not sort of,
present.
I don't have to think about myself. And I love that actually. So I probably chose the job to calm my mind. I didn't, I haven't really thought about that component of it, but it certainly worked. But now there's other tools on top of it. So there's so
Awesome.
much in there, so much in it. One of the things that's really important for me, it's really, once we understand this unreliable narrator, the ego, and what it's trying to do, how it's trying to sort of keep its identity intact and how hard it works to do that, what happens is you start seeing it everywhere and you can't unsee it and you feel it. It's like, oh, that's not kind of meeting me. It's stuff and noise and agitation or gossiping, and you start to just go, I don't want that around me. It's like the wrong vibe. It's like, just move it off me. And another version of that is when, one of my things is we all need to be really responsible for who we are and what we put on other people. And so whenever we've dumped something on someone or we've hurt someone, it's so important that we can just own it cleanly, not with bullshit, like just a clean, I'm really sorry I hurt you. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you and then I left that because there was a red light and then this happened and then this happened. I can't hear the noise anymore. I can't stand that noise. I just want to
Yeah.
hear this clean relating. I see you and I'm sorry I've
I
affected you.
think it's so funny, interesting that you say that. I go to the soccer field with my son and I see parents gaslighting all the time and not validating. And it's not just, it's everywhere. It's at work, it's everywhere. Lissy, your therapy clinic, the health group practice, you've got practitioners working with you. You've got a few, haven't you?
Yeah, we've been together for a very long time. So it's the Heath Group practice. I started the Heath Group practice when I came back from London. I lived in London for 9 years. That's where I did my master's, that 4-year one I was telling you about. And I came home and I didn't have a community. And so I decided to open the Heath Group practice. So the Heath came from London, the Hampstead Heath. It's a big, huge
Yeah.
park near where I lived. And so I called
Right.
the group, the Heath Group practice from that. Really terrible name because everyone thinks it's health. But anyway, it was good at the idea, a good idea at the time. So we've had I created a community, and that was really important to me to have people because I didn't have them here. They were all in London. I left my community in London, and so to start again, I gathered people, and we've been an amazing group of people, and many of us have worked there for well over a decade, and just love that space. So we're all independent, but we do something together, which is really very special. We don't advertise. It's just people know people and they contact me. And then I'll
Just
have a
like we
chat and
met.
see if they're a good fit.
Tell me, what other services do you provide in the community? Because I know you do a lot of things. You like in your, I was looking at your bio and all the things that you've done in the past. But what other services do you provide in the protectionists that you have provide for the community?
Well, I do some talks with corporates, and I often help them with things around relationships and and psychology matters. So I really enjoy that when they contact me and talk with them about healthy minds, how to be healthy, have a healthy mind, and promote that in the workplace, and also helping them see things they don't always see, what they're like from the outside. Like agitating a little bit, so getting in touch with a local politician and saying, I don't like what's going on. Can you please pass that up the line? So I get a little bit annoyed with sometimes, so I want to take it somewhere instead of just crapping on inside of my head about it. In terms of the community, I love mentoring people and guiding them. Certainly a lot of therapists who don't feel that they're qualified enough or good enough to put their shingle out. And I'm just like, you are qualified enough. They always think, oh, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to do well. I'm like, just believe in yourself. You are going to do this. And then telling them, sort of guiding them with how to go and get referrals and get started. I do anything in that sense. So if anyone contacts me, I'm always open to helping.
Beautiful. That's really nice to hear. Aside from being such an open-minded person and self-aware, what do your clients need to do to successfully apply learnings from your programs?
Need to have some quiet. They need a moment to let this stuff drop because it's not just heady stuff. We can learn it, but we need a moment to just let it drop inside,
Do you
because
think
once we understand that we're actually not who we think we are and that we can then do anything, we can change anything after that. I know for me, once I got this message, I realized, I was reading Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. By page 32, my jaw was on the floor. By that point, I knew I was going to change the way that I practiced psychotherapy. And it made me fearless, absolutely fearless. I knew I could do anything at that point because it was a story. The fear was a story.
That's interesting,
So
because we're going to come at the end of this session. We're going to ask you if there's any material. So please remember that book, because we want to know a little. We want to know about it. I know when I traveled to the US for the first, not for the first time, for when I was 41, that was like 13, 14 years ago. I had my own style, my own beliefs, and the way I studied my craft, which is boxing. And it wasn't until I met a 92-year-old, or he was close to 90, he died when he was 92, teacher, a guy that was really famous. He performed with Sidney Poitier, Miles Davis. He was from Spanish Harlem, originally from Florida, an African American teacher named Jimmy Williams. And I realized that I had to undo all the bad habits that I thought were really good for me. And I rewired my brain by just allowing myself to listen, and then blocking time, and then understanding what was going on. And when you say just stopping and taking time to listen, I really resonate with that. And that's such a beautiful part of my self growth. And I believe that it would apply to a lot of people. But once again, everybody sees things differently because they have their own model of the world in themselves.
they don't know
But
that their model is actually a construction that they had nothing to do with. And that's really the point of it. So all our likes and dislikes, are they really? So once I knew that this fear was a story, I used to be really fearful talking in a big group, like I belonged to a business group, and I wouldn't even put my hand up. But once I found out this was a story, it was like, I can do anything. Here I go. And then I just started getting a media presence and writing, going and talking to a publisher and getting my book off the ground. Like anything's possible when you know that your fear is a story.
yeah,
You have to be prepared to not be popular all the time, or for people to think that you're not, I mean, I get stuff on Instagram. It's so pathetic. I put stuff out and I go through stages where I can be bothered or not because I find it all a bit, I don't love social media. But I get this crap. It's like, oh, nice legs. And here I am, I'm trying to promote really serious work for people, like to change
yeah.
lives. And you get these, these ridiculous comments of, oh, nice
Look,
legs.
you reminded me of a song that I like by Bob Marley, and he's a line in it that he talks about emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And how true it is with what you're sharing, and what we all experience. I'm sure Alex, Nadia, yourself, and I can really relate to those lyrics. Do you have any stories of your clients that you've helped with psychotherapy and relationship counseling without having to drop names, and that you can
Yeah, for
share, that
sure.
you can remember, you can share with us and our audience?
It's very difficult for me to do it without, because everyone's so different. Like there are I can't even say the word. There's general aspects that relate, but all I can tell you is people come in, they cannot see a path, they don't know why they're so unhappy, and we go through a process whether it's creating a life that is just joyful, one where they start off, and I mean, I've had people who really wanted to die. They could see no point being here. They had nothing to hold on to. Many are very lonely. And so I take them through the kind of, there's the psychological components, but then there's a real practical component, which is network up. You've got to find your people, build relationships. They take time, but you need to find groups, or go to men's groups if you want, or, do weekend retreats, whatever it is, like get connected. So for me, it's looking at exactly and everyone's wanting something different. No two therapies are the same. But it's go inside, look at what's caused, why you're having that reaction to it. Because once you release that, you don't need to keep carrying that. So you're freer every step of the way. So whatever the issue is, if it's a couple coming in and one of the partners is drinking too much or taking drugs, I say to the other partner, this is not yours. Stop harassing them to stop taking drugs or whatever. You can't do this work for them. This is theirs. This is their journey. Hand it over. So I physically, I go, here it is. You hand this to your partner and say, I am trusting you to work this out, but I can't do it for you. Let go. We can't control our partner. And so that's just one example, like with an addiction, or even just over drinking, like not
The
even someone who doesn't.
responsibility, that you're
Yeah.
taking responsibility for your actions. That is amazing. Yeah,
And it's anything like imagine if I've got a problem with my temper, that's on me to really look at why I do it, why I haven't got better emotional regulation, and why I'd want to spray my stuff all over my partner when it's going to hurt the
Mm.
relationship. If we don't look at what's inside and what we're doing with it, we're going to really hurt other people too. And you know the expression, hurt people, hurt people. I mean, there's no truer 4 words ever
Yes.
spoken. Hurt
No,
people, hurt people. That's
it's so true, Lissy. Now, I know some things aren't always black and white. Do you have any stories when client sessions just didn't go as well as you planned they would? And can you share?
Oh, I feel like I'm a bit of a dud in the share component because it's so personal. Um, Look, some sessions are just really crap, and it could be they are because they might not be on their A game. They may not want help that day. It used to be maybe I didn't get enough sleep, or my kids were young, and I was not sort of firing and picking up where they were, or I hadn't sort of gone down this path where I was a better therapist. So I have many better sessions now than I used to have. But sometimes it just doesn't work, and sometimes you'll have someone come in and you just don't fit. It doesn't happen that often anymore, but sometimes just two people don't gel,
Do
and
you think that sometimes when people come together, sit in a room in front of you, in front of somebody like yourself, sometimes there is too much of mental blockage that they're holding on to that they can't really release and actually benefit from a session from a great therapist like yourself?
don't mind though, because I'm really happy for people to come in where they're at. So I will meet you where you are. You come to me. I'm not going to judge where you're at. That's just where life's shaped you to take you up to this point. They're coming for help. And a lot of people
Yes.
will come. If it's a couple, they come when it's ground zero. Their relationship's on the line. And I say, good, now we can roll up your sleeves. Let's get some work done. Let's get going. That's a great place to start because you are looking at the end going, this matters. This matters so much. That increases the motivation to be there. So people can come in, they've been kicked out of other therapies. I have it all the time. Um, we've just been thrown out from this one, and someone said we're too hard for them or we were fighting too much. And I look at them, I say, I'm not going to throw you out.
Mm.
I might ask you to step outside for a moment, but I'm not going to throw you out. Why would I do that? Because then how can I help them if I throw them out? So for me, I'll meet anybody where they're at, as long as they're not smashing up my room or being violent, physically violent. I'm not going to put up with that. But if they're angry, take a moment. Sometimes people get in their car and drive and come back. I just say, just come back. It's okay if you need a moment. Like, I'm not there to trap people and I'm not there to judge them. People
Sure.
are where they're at. And so come on as you bring yourself. And actually, what's really important with what you're saying is some people think they have to be something for me to come in with something. And they're like, oh, I'm not experienced in this. And I say, great, then just let's talk. Do you know how to talk? Let's talk. That's all they need to do is just talk. They don't have to be experienced at therapy. That's the beauty. It's not like a car that, you need to know how to drive.
Let it flow from there. I know that I had a young boy that was working with me and I was doing some neurotransformation therapy with him and he just lost his mum. He was only 18 and he couldn't look you in the eye and talk. He was really shy. And he's changed his trajectory amazingly. He lost 19 kilos while he was with me over the space of 12 months. He's now studying in Wollongong University, and he's done some great things. He's got a job. He's doing so many good things, and that was just his ability to just stop all the self talk and just be able to listen. And at such a young age, most young people, it's really hard because they've got this model of the world of social interaction and social media and other people, what is acceptance to be have you've got to have a girlfriend, you've got to drive a certain
Mm.
car at this age, you've got to have be making this much money, etc. Once you've left high school, or you've got to be studying this and that. And I think sometimes our view of the world, our view of ourselves at the end of the day, because we are really the last stop, really gets affected with how vulnerable we allow ourselves to become with all these self-talk. I wanted to ask you, do you have, because you've spoken about this before earlier on when we was talking about any favorite books or links and resources people can look up and get more information about what you do?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's lissyabrahams.com, and on there's loads of free resources. There's lots of podcasts. I've even got my own podcast at the moment called Relationships Under the Microscope, which I absolutely love. Turning the tables,
Cool.
absolutely love it. It's really interesting. We have people from experts from all these different fields, and I learn so much every single time that I record. So I just love it. So I also have my book. It's Relationship Reset, and that's audio as well, and that's me recording it. So if you really want my voice, there it is, or it's the paperback version as well. And yeah, and people can always just, any of your listeners, they can contact me at lissyabrahams.com if anyone's got any questions that they'd like to ask. I'm always happy to reply. Please don't send me reams and reams of pages though. That won't work. Just quick
I was
questions.
just
I'm
about
more
to
than happy
ask
to
you.
get.
I was just about to ask you, Lizzie, how do people get a hold of you? But you've
Yeah,
answered that.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's been amazing talking to you, and it's been so enlightening. And I've taken some notes down. I know Nadia has as well, which she'll be sharing with the live streams and stuff like that. Alex has left. I'll catch up with him later on. But Lizzie, yeah, once again, what a coincidence! I bumped into you in the park, and I believe it's the beginning of a friendship that I
Mm.
think I can learn a lot off. We can both. I'm looking at doing more retreat work, which Nadia's going to share a little bit with our audience. In November, I'm doing another retreat. It's called the Footprints Retreat. But I'd love to chat to you. Maybe we can catch up sometime as we discussed and just share some of the things I'd like to pursue in, with couples stuff.
Couples
So
are great. Couples are great. Yeah.
couples working out together, couples doing all kinds of things together. But I'll chat to you about that another
Yeah,
time.
we
But
can take that
how
offline,
beautiful
no
to make that,
problem.
how beautiful to make that
Yeah.
connection. What do you reckon, Nadia? Can
Most
you?
definitely, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, for
This was
sure.
fun. I love Lizzie. I love the way you talked about earlier in the piece. I'm going back. The way you spoke about ego sense and self identity, and your mind can talk so much BS, as you said, and just talking about uh, relationships. And like today, you said you shared something about people. I don't mind if people walk into my office and keep their own hat on. And sometimes when I'm sitting at my workplace, which is a gym, and people come in and they put their own hat on, sometimes it can be quite arrogant by them and that. But I've got to learn to embody that a little bit more. And then as it goes along, what I've noticed as we spend more time together and we get to know each other, that hat comes off and they become something more authentic. And
Yeah, so
they
you meet them
behave
where
from that.
they're at. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it wasn't quite a hat for me. That was your boy suggestion. For me,
Yeah.
it was meeting them where they're at. And I think
Yes.
what's really important with that, that arrogance is holding them together somehow. That arrogance is not is a tool, it's a shield. That arrogance is only there because they're not really free just to walk in and go, you know what's going on here. Or I've done this a little bit, I don't know, but put me in a ring, I'm a bit scared. It's used as a tool. And so that's one of these ego defense mechanisms. And that's one of the things I definitely talk about in Healthy Minds. It's what do we put into the world? So here's this guy, he's come in, he's all Mr. Arrogant, like here I am. But if you can retain a part that goes, oh, I see that you have a need for a shield. And let's hope that this place becomes a safe space for you. So you don't need that anymore at some point when you're ready to release it.
Mm,
Because you've got a container, your ring, the work, the gym, what you're doing is a container for people. And it's not just about boxing, it's the whole mind body. So hopefully he'll be able to shed that arrogance and just get real with you. He won't have to be perfect and uppity. He's playing a role because he doesn't know what else to do.
mm. So beautiful. Really enjoyed sharing this,
It's
listening
been
to
great.
everything you have to share for the last 45 minutes. Lissy, amazing. I look forward to catching up with you. And I also look forward, Nadia, to hearing more a little bit about your book and what you've got planned with that, because I believe you've been speaking to Kevin. And I look forward to maybe doing our own little Zoom sessions just about your book.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a couple of things in the works. I did speak to our friend Kevin yesterday, and we've got a little bit of travel that's on the horizon. But I'm looking forward to your retreat in November. I was almost going to say October, but 9th and 10th of November. We've got ice baths, we have yoga, we have boxing sessions, we have neurotransformation therapy, we've got all sorts. I hope I'm still invited. I haven't uninvited myself.
Of course you are. You have to come. And you know, we've also got each participant gets a massage. They get a nutritional session from Nikki Ravelman from the Health Emporium. We've got so much going on. They get fed at acai bowls, detoxing smoothies. As you know, there's so much going on. It's like the last group that we had. The report was amazing, wasn't it? The corporate group that we took through.
Yeah, we had some really good feedback, and hopefully we'll see Lissy there as well. So at least for a
Yeah,
massage.
I could
I
pop
would
in.
love to.
I'll pop in.
I would love to do a couples weekend, a day retreat even, or a 2 day
Okay.
retreat where we could have Lizzie talking and we could accompany that with some vision sessions and a breakthrough sessions at the end where they break the karate board and, you know, just nice meals and just couples being able to connect. I've also been looking at doing fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, where they spend a day together, they interact, where, you know,
There's
it's
so
just
much potential.
connection.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all connection and just healing in relationships and growth. It's as good as it gets, really, isn't it?
It doesn't
It's
get any
amazing.
better than that. You
Yeah,
know, I rush home to
awesome.
see my kids. But once again, Lissy, so cool to see you today. And I know you've got a busy schedule. So for you to fit us at this time of an evening after a long day, we're just blessed to have you. And I look forward to chatting to you soon. You have an amazing evening
Yeah.
and lots of love from me and Nadia. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Maida. Thanks, Nadia. Lovely to meet you both and see you on Saturday, Maida. Bye.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bye.